This is Thirsty for Knowledge Thursday. It is a weekly webinar series brought to you by the Ares Foundation for Financial Education, Inc. Tonight we are doing the financial implications of divorce.
If you're listening to this, you're usually at the point where you decided, okay, I think divorce is the way we're going to end up going, right? So you've contemplated all this for a while, and now you've got to get down to some brass tacks as far as educating yourself and really paying attention to the details. You want to understand how laws and assets are divided in your state. You want to understand how your state handles spousal support. If there's children involved, you want to understand how your state handles child support. Then you want to think about how you're going to live during a divorce, and then also how you want to rebuild your life after the divorce. Every state has different rules, especially when it comes to whether an asset was acquired before or after you were married, or depending on how long you were married. It's really important to work with a financial advisor, to have them work with your attorney so they can understand what kind of needs you're going to have going into this and coming out of this divorce. Really, really good idea to make sure you have all of these records together before you move forward. Even stuff like separately owned property and the inheritance that one of you may have received, any gifts from family members that one of you may have received. All this plays into the financial proceedings as you go into the divorce settlement. This is a really big one. You don't want to have any surprises when it comes to debt. And this is something people can get in a lot of trouble with when it comes to divorce. This is things that can drag on for them. So you want to get a copy of your annual credit report. You can do that by going to annualcreditreport.com, and every 12 months you can get a copy of each one of the three major credit reporting companies to get those reports. The other thing you want to do is try to find out any hidden debt. Like, you may understand where yours is, and make sure you know what things are on jointly as far as credit cards and any other loans that may be out or outstanding, and understand what your responsibilities would be for that debt. The next thing is get a complete inventory of everything that you guys own. Not just what you own, but what he owns, what you own jointly, what you own separately, and even whether it just be something that's a sentimental value or actually has a real value. And the best way to do this is take pictures of everything, catalog everything that you have, because it's not unheard of when people know they're going into a divorce, especially if the other spouse isn't aware that they're heading that direction, for assets to start becoming hidden. So this is going to be different for a lot of states. I know in Massachusetts, like I said, it's not common law, so it doesn't necessarily mean because you accumulated during your marriage that it's going to get split 50-50, or especially if it was before marriage. But in a lot of states, everything is common. So anything that was accumulated while you were married is considered a marital asset, regardless of the value or whose job was bigger, or whether it came from inheritance or not. If you were married and it came in as an asset, it counts. So you just want to make sure you know which state you are and what the laws are around that. This is a big one too. You want to check Social Security benefits. So to the point I was just making, if one of you was making a lot more money than the other, then when it comes to age 62, which is the earliest you can start taking Social Security, or at your full retirement age, whatever that might be, I think most of them are now 67 or 66 in some portion, okay?
Yep.
Your spouse's Social Security benefit may be greater than yours, and your benefit may be greater by claiming on your spouse's benefits versus your own. So it's very important to check that out. Now, even if your spouse gets remarried, that doesn't change your benefit.
Just one of the things is you do have to have been married for at least 10 years.
Divorces can get very expensive. That's why I was actually, when Tom and I were talking earlier about if you can get an intermediary to help you get this thing settled before you get into court, you may save a bundle on legal fees. Part of this homework, like we said, getting your documents together and knowing where everything is, understanding the laws. The less time they've got to spend explaining all this to you and doing the research for you, the cheaper this is all going to be. And once again, the more amicable of a divorce you can have, the cheaper it's going to be. Update your accounts. So as you go through all of this, like I said, you want to go and review your will, your estate plan, but you're also going to want to go through like your retirement accounts, right? So because your spouse may be on your retirement account as a beneficiary now. Life insurance, they may be on your life insurance. Some states like Massachusetts, once you get legally divorced, your spouse is no longer your beneficiary in your life insurance unless you rename them that way.
Conversation here is just making sure that those updates are done.
Yep.
As you're going forward, and it's another reason for pulling all of those financial statements, what Craig had mentioned in the beginning, and the reason for sort of harping and coming back to that is because then you can actually say, well, okay, so we've got, a retirement account, an IRA, and something else, a life insurance policy. These all have beneficiaries attached to them. I know, a statement won't have the beneficiary on it usually. So you're going to have to do a little research and get the information about, well, wait, who did I have as beneficiaries here? You may know it, but you may just want to verify and make sure.
Well, the other thing too is, it may be registrations that you can't change without proper documentation that may have to be signed by your ex-spouse, right? So you may not be able to get them off of certain mutual accounts, like mutual funds, investment accounts, brokerage, retirement accounts, without getting those things, legal documents signed. So now we'll talk about some of the things you don't want to, some of the don'ts. And this is a big one. You don't necessarily want to hold on to the house, right? So a lot of times people want to hold, well, I live in the house, I've been there for 10, 15 years, and I decorated the way I wanted it, and I'm comfortable here, and the kids like it here, and all those things come into play. The problem you got to remember is, can you understand the potential consequences of keeping the house? As far as tax consequences go, as far as, can you keep the mortgage going? Can you pay it after the divorce? Can you maintain the property after the divorce? And what do you have to give up in order to keep the house? Don't forget, we talked to this a little bit earlier, don't forget about splitting retirement accounts and how that, what required documentation might be in order. Sometimes people, they go, that's my money, I don't want to give it up. I put it away, and depending on the state's laws, you want to make sure, once again, you get what you're entitled to. Because once you do decide on the settlement, let's say your spouse has to give you a certain amount of their retirement assets, don't roll all the ex's retirement accounts into your IRA right away. Now, you will have to pay income tax on anything you take out, but if you do need that money, you can take it out before retirement to pay those expenses or anything else you need it for, without having that pay that 10% early withdrawal fee. The other big thing you want to take into consideration, and I don't see it on the screen here, is your health insurance. That's going to be a biggie, right? So if your spouse is the one who's carrying the health insurance benefits through his work, you want to see if you're going to be able to keep those benefits, stay on those benefits or not. And if not, can you go through the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, or COBRA? How about that for a mouthful? This is a real revenge move, right? I'm going to go out and do a big vacation. I'm going to take the savings account and blow it all on a new wardrobe. If it goes into court, these are all things that are going to be weighed against you. They don't like seeing that, and you may have to bring some of that money back in. You spent it, well, now they're going to make you go back and get it. If you weren't the instigator of the divorce, if you weren't the one seeking the divorce, sometimes, the hurt feeling can override any of the logical things that we're talking about today. I want to get back at them. I can't stand seeing them, with someone else, or I can't believe they did this to me, and I need to get back. It's not fair. All those things that come into play, and those are going to be what we call going through the stages of grieving, right? And everybody goes through that differently. It's the denial, the anger, the acceptance, all those things. But in this case, when you talk about the financial impact of it, the quicker you can get through the acceptance and get back to thinking about things logically, so you can get back on with your life again, the better off you're going to be, both in time spent on it and a financial outcome, and hopefully an emotional outcome as well.
Have questions? Ask us. We can help with that. You can email Craig at crichardson@aresfoundation.org, or you can visit the website to learn more about what we do and how we might be able to help you. www.aresfoundation.org. Want to see more of this recording? Go to www.aresfoundation.org/events. If you know an organization or community support group that could benefit from one of our workshops, reach out to Tom T. Alessi at aresfoundation.org. Our mission is trying to help everyone have a better relationship with their money.